Okay. Okay. Hi. Okay, great. I'm gonna just read from my phone here. Just want to tell you a little bit more about Lagueria Davis. On the way to writing and directing the wonderful documentary we just saw, Black Barbie, the documentary, Lagueria Davis has lived a full and interesting life. She grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and majored in electrical engineering and computer science at the University of Oklahoma. In her own words, her need to create consumed her, and she left the engineering program and landed in the School of Art. And we are all so blessed and luckier for that decision. Equipped with a BFA in media art and after stints with AmeriCorps, Colorado Mountain Range, and the American Red Cross, she was offered her first job in film as an office PA while working as a domestic violence shelter manager. She worked as a writer's PA on season 2 of The L Word and was selected to participate in the Mentorship Matters program. In addition to numerous featured specs and 4 original pilots, not to mention being a 2016 Academy Nickel quarterfinalist and a 4-time Austin Film Festival second rounder, she has written and directed numerous short films, including the wonderful Light in Dark Places, just gives me chills saying the title, thinking about it, which is not only powerfully moving, but which won Best Short Film at the 2019 Lexicon Film Festival. And so as you can see, Lagueria contains multitudes. And as she has pointed out, which I love, quote, as a queer INFJ Aquarian born in the year of the horse, she is as unique as her name. Please help me welcome and give thanks to Lagueria Davis. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Awesome. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. Yeah, so I hope you had a really great day with students around campus and things. We'll start with just a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience to hopefully ask questions as well. Okay, so let's see. At the beginning of the film, you assert that you hate dolls. But by the end of the film, you are sort of changed or transformed, and you can relate to this doll. Can you talk a little bit about how that journey of filmmaking is transformative or how it changes you?
You know, I can't speak for every film, but for this film in particular, I think I lost it. Yeah, that's a great question. For this one, I feel like starting out, yes, I had someone say, when I wrote those lines, hate is a strong word. And I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, it is, but that's my truth. But then also, what I found was I was on this journey to understand. Because I feel like, for me, the definition of hate is a lack of understanding. So I set out to understand why my aunt, loved dolls, loved black dolls in particular, and was a black doll collector. And so for me, just that part of it was one of the first transformative moments of the journey. And then once I was in it, I don't think I was really expecting to relate to a doll so hard. That would be another truth. I was really shocked about just how strongly I felt about her journey to be. And she's a piece of plastic. It's a piece of plastic.
Right.
And it took 21 years for a piece of plastic to be, in my words, worthy of the Barbie brand name. And then when they did do a black fashion doll worthy of the Barbie brand name, they didn't think to market her, or, so for me, that meant something deeper than just, being a doll that wasn't marketed, or, it cut a little deeper, and it made me think in terms of what it, means to navigate as a human, a flesh and blood person. And so when I was connecting those dots, woo, boy, little Lagueria came into play. Just kind of thinking about how do you get to a place as an adult relating to a doll this way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it mirrors your journey. And so many, so many Black women trying to, just doing our work and doing it so well.
Trying to, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I often say that, like Black Barbie, the doll herself, is, kind of validation of, from my aunt and Kitty and Stacy, in a workplace where, oftentimes they're silenced. It's validation of being seen and heard. And in a lot of ways, Black Barbie, a documentary, became that for me. Validation of being seen and heard, and having an understanding that this is a story worth telling, and I am a storyteller capable of telling a story. And so yeah, just like in the film, the themes, I'm always like, it's like peel the onion. I think you can peel the onion. There's so many nuanced conversations we can have about a transformative journey in filmmaking.
Right. And I love that storytelling aspect too. I think another one of the things I was telling you earlier that I love about the documentary is so many women seeing Barbie, seeing Black Barbie as this aspirational figure, and as this sort of storytelling device, a way that they learn to tell their story, tap into their story. Can you talk a little bit more about that aspirational quality that you found so many women having with Barbie, with Black Barbie?
Yeah, and that also was something for me that, was so just eye-opening and insightful, because I did come to the process open and not really knowing what I was going to find. Yeah. And discovering that the way people see Barbie in general, one. Mm-hmm. Two, Black Barbie. You saw me, or you heard me ask Barbie. I'm like, well, she's just really inspiring for you. She's like, yeah, what would Black Barbie do that? All day. That is very cutesy and demure. I love it. I love it. And Isis too. So I think for me, it was also just as transformative as it was also a journey in discovery and accepting all forms of inspiration. If it can find you, that's a beautiful thing. And with these women, they were able to find their inspiration and aspirations through seeing these Black Barbies. And I think it was important to tell their story, to show, our tagline with Netflix is more than just a doll, of just how that in and of itself is transformative.
Truly, true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. So Black Barbie has lived for decades now, mm-hmm. and she has persevered through very much. But in these times, how are you thinking about being a filmmaker or a creative or an artist in these times? And what do you think the impact of the art or the films, the things that we create now, can have on our audiences and also on the social constructs that we might be critiquing in our work?
I think that's a really good question, and I feel like I think it feels like it's always been a responsibility. I don't think I ever came to it thinking that I didn't have a service to do, to make art for the sake of making art. Um, and I don't know if that's, I have an art history minor as well, so I don't think that all art is representative, tries to tackle certain, but as a queer Black woman, sometimes I do feel like there's a responsibility, and I do try to bring a sense of thoughtfulness and intentionality, especially with this project. And seeing how Kitty put such intention, I was inspired by the women and the people that I was sitting down with. Just listening to their stories inspired me to, you know, do my best to get it right. Just to do them justice, to serve them in a way that felt intentional and authentic and, thoughtful. It wasn't lost on me what Misty said about, being a part of a history that doesn't, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot exactly what she said, but being a part of history that doesn't include you, that you're not thought of. And so I, definitely, was thinking in terms of being as thoughtful. History includes you here. And I want to portray that in a sensitive, intentional way. And I think where we are today, I think that I was speaking earlier in an interview just about the scene with my niece, and this is something that I discovered in real time. I was just in Albany, New York, accepting a Harriet Tubman Award.
Congratulations.
And it was such a great conversation because we were coming right off the heels of Tuesday. And someone asked me about my niece, and they were like, were you surprised? And how can we, turn our, get our young people to think differently? And I was like, what we just witnessed and what we just went through, I don't know how we can get her to think differently because it reinforces what she's thinking about, a Black woman not being able to stand on her own no matter how, credentialed, how educated, how qualified, how not a criminal, how not a rapist, how not, so that, it was a very emotional time because I was making that connection in real time, and I think I'm still processing, but just, having an understanding and connecting those dots are very real, and that is the reality. And I don't know how to, make progress if this is what we're seeing in our day-to-day and our reality. That no matter how we perform, politics aside, knowing on the other side is not a politician, that's not been a job, I'd say more or less, but when we're up against that messaging, yeah, I can sit in these Q&As now and say, how is Minnie's wrong? When I was trying to show her that she wasn't, she wasn't right when she said that, and that's how the chart of the population of the world came to be, to just kind of say that, that's not true. Most of the world is not that, but, and the most successful people aren't just because of that, but work hard, Get your education, study, be an upstanding citizen, kind human being. People will see you for that, and we gonna prove me wrong, actually.
Yeah, that the frustration is immense there, and I watched the documentary maybe like 10 times now. In the last couple times that I watched it, really struck by the piece about Brooklyn and Malibu Barbie mirroring what we've just seen unfold. Um, Somebody who has no credentials, and yeah, so that whole segment of me, it has different meaning now to me.
Yeah, exactly. Too bad, you can't tie. They're on the same stage of competition, but they tie.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, oh my goodness.
Well, I hope that when, I love that smile that Katie Blackford has when she holds the doll, and so I hope you have that smile when you are watching the film, or when you are, I hope you have that feeling about what you created, because it's really special.
In several moments.
Thank you. Good.
Goes back very
Good. Why don't we try to open it up to the audience to see if people have questions for you.
Okay, hi there. I'm Lagueria. I'm an art educator in Fairfax County. I love the film. I was born in the mid-70s, and I grew up playing with Christy. And I know that there was a transition to Black Barbie, but I didn't accept that. I just always called her Christy because I felt like she had a name, right? And she had an identity that was outside of Barbie. And I think, like, to this day, I still call her Christy because she represented me in some way, in great ways, and lots of the women in the film, articulated that, how she represented me. Short, quick story, I never had a white doll, right? Our parents were really intentional, and always, letting me know that, I had this beautiful milk chocolate brown skin, and, pointing out, Black women, brown women, and noting their beauty. One year for Christmas, I got Barbie accessories, and within the accessories, there was a wig, and the wig was blonde. And I said to my parents, well, I think I'm gonna need a white doll. I think I'm gonna need that white Barbie to go with this blonde wig, And my parents said, maybe by the Kwanzaa, or, and then it turned into like, maybe next Christmas, I never got it. And I'm happy I didn't. I do want to say thank you so much for this film, because I do feel like I was a kid that grew up with Christy. I am curious about the response to this film from Mattel, right? Because in a lot of ways, I don't think they came out looking too great in this film. Particularly from the perspective of the DI representative for Mattel, and how he seemed to misunderstand the impact of Barbie on the world.
Thank you for the question and for sharing your story. And, during our filming with Netflix, Mattel was more involved. And, we were able to sit down with Mason before then. And I think what you said about him is very interesting, just because for me, like one of the themes that if it comes up like now, I'll talk about it, but a lot of what we're seeing in the film is kind of what it means to navigate white spaces as other. And so for me, Mason is doing that.
Yeah.
He's our representative in the film who has a job to do, as the DEI, and I think he wants to make that progress, but he's only allowed to do so much. He needs to keep his job. So this is what it means to navigate as someone like Mason, who, you know, doing what he can. The needle of progress moves slowly, but you can move it so far, and doing the job. So we're all doing what we can in the spaces that we are navigating to try to move that needle a little further, and his situation is just that, and represents how that sometimes I've been there. I've been there. I'm a little less there now. I'm at the table shaking it up.
There's another question over here.
Thank you. I really appreciate the film. I was very surprised, not by it, but how I found out about it was through one of the George Mason chat groups about it. So I really appreciate it. I'm very happy with it. I have a question though. At the beginning, you said I think you were visiting your aunt. It seemed like you kind of like maybe happened to fall into the story. Like you really, I was wondering like what were you there for? I mean, did you go there to visit her? Did you know about her, or you just kind of found out about this history, you started talking, and then that just like, and at what point did you realize, there's something here, I think we can film this. Other question is, like, you said it took you 13 years to make this film, and I want to like, well, what was your journey, like, why did it take that long?
Why? That's a good question.
And also how did you get this connection to Shonda Rhimes? So that's it.
Okay, so I know, let's see if I can distill it down. So I moved to LA in 2011, as I said in the film, to expand upon my dream of becoming a filmmaker. So I met my aunt twice before then. I knew she worked at Mattel, but I didn't know her story. And so it wasn't until I moved and I stayed with her until I found a place of my own to stay in California that I had conversations with her. And she actually was very proactive. She was like, do you drink? I was like, so? And she's like, well, I have this Manischewitz. Let's sit down. I was like, oh, goodness. She put some snacks out. She's like, let's get to know each other. I'm like, okay. And she tells me her story. She's like, I was on that Barbie line in '59, and the filmmaker was like, oh, I did not know that. That's very, very interesting. Say more. And so we was on that Barbie line, and this, that, and the other happened. And, in 60, 61, we were like, why not make a Barbie that looks like me? Why not make a Black Barbie? And then, light bulb moment was that for me right there. I looked at her and I was like, I'm a filmmaker, right? And she's like, baby, I don't know what that means. Like, you should know. So I also think it's in terms of her introducing me to her world of black dolls, and I'm introducing her to my world of filmmaking. And so I was like, I think there's a story here. So I let her tell me about Kitty and Stacy and Steven and Christy and Francie and all the different dolls. And I'm like, oh wow, I don't know timeline at this point in time. I don't know dates and years and, all of that good stuff. And I go off and I do some research. And the 21-year mark hits for me, and I'm like, wow, what? Okay, this is something here. And the fact that she's collecting black dolls, the psychology behind that also struck me as very interesting. Because I was like, this feels like it stems from a lack of having black dolls. So once she has them, she collects them. And then I learned that Red Waters as well collects them and from black. And so I was starting to build kind of like this kind of case and thesis for the film. So that's kind of how it got started. And then 10 years of the journey was development. I had made a documentary. I'm a writer, director, so the first couple of years was me trying to figure out how to do that. It's like, oh my goodness, this is hard. I knew because it was Barbie, I didn't want to just kind of pick up a camera and start shooting. It didn't feel like it was something that was living, breathing, happening now that you had to capture. I knew I had to get my aunt's story down. I knew I wanted to do that. But other than that, it was just me trying to figure out how to put it down on paper so that I could pitch it. I shot some stuff, sizzle, you know, the materials that you need to kind of take it out, because also the vision that I wanted to do, I needed money. I needed money. So I was applying for grants and residencies and fellowships and taking meetings. And why it took so long? Well, you know, most of those meetings were with people who don't look like me, and they have the money. And in most of those meetings, I was pitched what my story was. They didn't want to, you know, once they heard it was like, oh, identity politics, oh, black women, black girls, oh, no. But here's another story. I'm like, Barbie's a loaded gun. We could tell a whole bunch of stories. But that's not my story. So I waited out until I could tell the story that I felt like I wanted to tell. That was my story, connected to my aunt, and exploring what we explored. And in 2020, I was coming off of a nice round of residencies. I got a couple of grants. We had a great 2019. I was like, oh my goodness. And I must say, Ava's Barbie that came out with the first She Rose line in 2015 in December sold out. That's what took Black Barbie off the shelf. And I was more active just putting it out then. Never went back on the shelf after that. I sold out a lot of no's, lots of meetings, lots of this, no. Until I got my one yes in 2020. We know what happened in 2020.
Yes, we do. And so, yeah,
It became relevant.
people paid attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became relevant in a way that, you know, it shouldn't take all of that to be relevant. We were always relevant and worthy.
Yeah, and still are.
Mm-hmm. And so, two amazing, I was introduced by one of our EPs, Milan Chakrabarty, off of what was then Twitter. I'm not a social media person, but we did a week of fun Black Barbie in 2020, and that is how I was connected with more meetings that week. And since I'm social media at first, I was like, just 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Motivational Monday, Woman Question Wednesday, Female Filmmaker Friday. Here's some tweets, some pre-baked stuff, some assets. Sent it out to my network, and they went to work. It was out there. And Milan Chakraborty introduced me to Lynn Lay, Grace, Lay, and Sumali Montano, and they believed in the story that I wanted to tell. So many people in between then, from Camilla Hall, who helped get the first bit of money to shoot a nice real sizzle, get a really lovely deck made. I fleshed out my treatment to 10 pages. And so, yeah. And then the Shonda Rhimes of it, to the date, April 2021, We started pre-production. March 2023, we're premiering at South by Southwest. We don't sell out of South by Southwest. We hit the festival circuit. People are waiting. That's what I was told. Let's see how this Barbie movie is gonna do. It's like with $100 million in marketing, it's gonna do just fine. It's gonna be great. Barbie has 98% global recognition. Like that's, and so then once she did very well, then we started to have some very real conversations, and those conversations included Netflix. And I mentioned Sumali. She's an actress, and she's a series regular on Shonda's new show. She wore a t-shirt, which is what I got for South by Southwest. Shonda saw it and was like, "What's that? I want to watch that. Oh, we love that. Let's do this. Let's collab." And so we opened the film back up. Year 13 on the project started. And we released Juneteenth of 2024. So that's,
Thank you for your endurance and persisting and just doing it and pushing it.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we out of time for questions? Do you have time for more?
Hi again. So I'll just do a quick story and then I'll get to my question. So I wanted to say that I really love the film, and I honestly did not know there was a legit the Black Barbie that has been here. I thought the first Black Barbie was Brooklyn. I was like, oh, we have a Black Barbie now. Cool. But no, she's been here. And so as a kid, one of my favorite Barbie doll was the 2008 Holiday Barbie. I had the black one. Loved her. So I thought that the black versions of Barbie was just another version or one of her friends Nikki, but she's just wearing the same thing as Barbie's wearing. And so your niece, I related to her when she was talking about how she didn't really realize that there was black Barbies. And a quick little joke, the little kids talking about how the new Barbie and then the old Barbie, of like the Barbie like the dream house. I was like, old? What do you mean old? But a question for you is, do you wish that you added anything in or kept anything in that you probably took out during your editing process?
No, I don't want to add anything. And there are a few things from the festival cut that I do miss. But I think it was important to add what we added, which was the conversation about the firsts and Black women becoming Black Barbie, and talking more about the bodies, and of course everything with Miss Rep Waters. I really wanted to get her in there. She's the same age as my aunt, and I just wanted to have another voice in there for her. So I'm really glad we were able to, do that, with Shondaland and Netflix. It was so additive to the film. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you. Thank you. And should we wrap up too? Or is there one more question? One more?
Real last question.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. Thank you so much for this film. I saw it on Juneteenth. I actually saw it on social media, so my algorithm is good for something. But my question is, the thing that really stood out to me is the part where Amira did that study with kids and their perception of Barbie now. And I feel like even as someone who is Gen Z, and I think even when I was a kid, I feel like representation and diversity in dolls have improved so much, even though I wasn't a kid that long ago. And so I'm wondering, like, what was your first impression of the study that Amira did, and did anything like surprise you about that?
No, I feel like, firstly, Dr. Amira Safir came to us via our lovely producer, Aaliyah Williams. And, you know, I was really looking into someone I could collaborate with, since that's not my wheelhouse. And I talked to Margaret Bill Spencer, and just having an idea of, she did a test for CNN, and then back in 2010, and they did a little expo on it. And so I got to talk with her, and she was very insightful just about some of the conceived notions of how the 1940s test was perceived, you know. And so I was like, okay, we definitely want to approach this in a way that does no harm, you know. And so Dr. Amir Safir was right in line with that. And so one of the first things she mentioned was, you know, let's do groups, like groups of threes, they're with their peers. It's a conversation. It's not a forced test, which means you have a couple of choices and you choose that. It's not a forced choice test. And so I was like, I love all of this. And, you know, I think I was just really surprised. It was amazing to, you know, talk with her and the other researchers about what it meant when the kids were kind of saying what they were saying. And for me, I was just floored about how smart and how perceptive the kids are. I don't know that I went into it giving the kids that much credit, because they really, I mean, you saw, really perceptive. And for me, it just hits harder just how important what they're playing with and what they're seeing. Now they're engaging with the media more, in terms of media informs what they're buying. So it's really important what they're seeing and engaging with at that age. They're little sponges for sure. And so it made me happy to see how affirmed and how intelligent and how, you know, that self-love was there. And then it made me sad to see the cracks in those foundations that were starting to, you know, root up. And so.
I really like when she said, like, kids can even see the hierarchy that exists even in the toys that they play with, which I thought was so profound. And yeah, it just proves why representation is so necessary. And yeah, that's really powerful.
And not just like representation, but the right representation. I think that's what we're, you know, this authentic, not performative, not checking a box, but like we see you, we hear you, you have a voice, you are welcome here. That type, diversity of thought, Tasha Copeland talks about that, but like you are a person, you are a human being, the humanity, like all of that, in the sense of representation, all encompassing.
Absolutely. And you know, the whole, if you can't be it unless you can see it, and it has to be a full human being.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thank you, Lagueria. Thank you,
Have a
Cynthia.
nice night. Thank you for spending this time with us. Time says bye.
Thank you.